Dear colleagues, I sincerely congratulate you and want to express my sincere gratitude for your interest in the problems of studying archaeological monuments in Ukraine, as well as the organizers for the opportunity to take part in the work of this conference. Unfortunately, in these difficult times for my country, I don't have the opportunity to personally join your work. Therefore, with the permission of the organizers, I am providing a recording of my talk and presentation. Kostiantyn Shyshkin's use of aerial photography for mapping Late Scythian hillforts in the Lower Dnieper region. Modern methods of remote study of the Earth's surface in the field of archaeology have brought impressive results during the last decades. To a large extent, this is due to the availability of satellite images on the internet and the possibility of flights to find new sites and photograph them. However, during the time of the Soviet Union, a large part of mapping and almost all aerial photography was classified. Therefore, archaeological research of this period using remote methods is extremely rare and was available only to those who directly worked with aerial photographs. In many ways, the questions of the methodology of using aerial photographs of that time, the principles of identifying monuments and their mapping remain unexplained. As a source of information, the aerial photos themselves almost never made it to scientific publications. Considering this, the study of Kostiantyn Shyshkin's activities in the 60s years of the 20th century is particularly important for us. In the course of work on clarifying the role of Shishkin in the history of the development of domestic archaeology, we managed to find in the scientific archive of the Institute of Archaeology of the National Academy of Science of Ukraine, in the Fund of Scientific Works, a folder with the materials of Kostiantyn Shyshkin, which he handed over for storage in the general framework of the preparation of an archaeological map of Ukraine in 1960s years. These are materials for mapping archaeological monuments, primarily mounds of the Lower Dnieper region, a total of 51 locations on 22 sheets which contained hundreds of ancient mounds, some other mapping materials, and part of personal correspondence, 5 letters with one of the employees of the Institute, Yuri Zaharuk, for the period 1963-67. However, several prints of aerial photographs and photocopies of drawings of 4 Lower Dnieper Late Scythian hillforts, which were made on their basis, turned out to be one of the most important and interesting materials that survived. These are Gavrylivske, Annivske, Sablukivske, and Konsulovskoye hillforts. Only the last one, erroneously named Gornostaevskoye by Shishkin because it was located opposite this village. All of them belong to the phenomenon of the Late Scythian hillforts and are located on the higher right bank of the lower reaches of the Dnieper river within the current Kherson region. All prints of aerial photos are black and white, made on standard sheets of photo paper 17 by 24 centimeters. None of the aerial photos we found have any technical details. When they were taken, what height they were taken, etc., except for the spatial joining lines of the sheets. Judging by the signatures on the drawings, by the situation of June 1962, we can understand that this is the date of the aerial photographs themselves. Judging by this, Shishkin didn't have many sources of pictures. At the same time, it can be seen that the cartographer was already working with some of the pictures. Fields, forest strips are circled with lines. Sometimes it is marked with which crops are planted, winter wheat, vineyards, etc. Outlines of the location of triangulation signs at the sites of the largest mounds. From correspondence, we know that the original source of the aerial photographs were at a scale of 1 to 35,000, but the scale was too inconvenient for archaeological needs. The photoprints we discovered were magnified by an average of 2.33 times. Of course, it wasn't a traditional scale, but it did a good job of illustrating the required region with the required details. It is most likely that he enlarged it for a better perception and understanding of what was depicted, because in the original aerial photograph itself, the areas of the hillforts would be about 2 by 3 centimeters in size, which of course is not at all convenient for further processing. An important detail should be considered that presence of traces of a drawn grid on all the pictures which he used to enlarge by squares, and then make a sketch of the archaeological site itself. Shishkin also mentions this part of the work in his letters and even indicates that he spent about 10-15 hours of working time to create each of these sheets. From the original scale, the aerial photography had to be enlarged 7 times, as a result of which he received a drawing of a scale of 1 to 5,000, which is quite convenient for depicting individual small details on the territory of monuments. The presence of these grids is indisputable proof that it was these pictures that were used by Shishkin to create the drawings of the 4 designated hillforts. Regarding the drawings, their photocopies are made the same size as the original, 1 to 1, and correspond to a scale of 1 to 5,000, which is indicated on all prints. First of all, they impress with a huge amount of details, where not only the monuments of hillforts are marked, but also numerous mounds, which the author considered to be necropolises. Analyzing these drawings, it should be noted that all of them belong to the Late Scythian monuments, of which about 1.5 dozen are known and scattered along the banks of the Dnieper at a distance of more than 150 kilometers. These sites have been known to archaeologists since at least the beginning of the 20th century. Their main forms and topographic features, including drawings, were published by the local archaeologist Viktor Hashkevich back in 1913. But the fact that at least 3 of them are already marked on the map of the second half of the 19th century is interesting. Subsequent numerous excavations at many of these sites revealed rich materials of a mixed Greek-barbarian culture. Numerous excavations were carried out in the inner territory of the hillforts. However, at the same time, we know that the general ideas about the topographic features of the space outside these hillforts have hardly changed since the time of Hashkevich. Therefore, let's focus on the main features of Shishkin's drawings which distinguish them from the previous ones and carry certain historical information. Undoubtedly, the main feature of all these drawings is the clear and precise drawing of defensive lines around the hillforts. In the vast majority, they are well visible on aerial photographs. The defensive line is marked with a dotted line only outside the Konsulovskoye hill fort, and even then almost nothing is visible on the aerial photo. The second outer defensive line is not marked for the territory of the Annivske hill fort in the drawings described by us, but it is already present in the publication of 1966. Apparently, the author considered the presence of this line to be a mandatory attribute in the defense of the city. The drawings of the Gavrylivske hill fort impress with a number of small details. Also, fundamentally new lines of defense are not visible in them. A significant number of such markings close to the coastline, in our opinion, are mainly related to the military trenches of the Second World War, which have already become overgrown with grass and bushes in 20 years. The drawing of the Sablukivske hill fort stands out separately as it shows the third defensive line, which is not marked on any another plan and wasn't known. It is also very clearly readable on aerial photograph. The second important feature is Shishkin's designation of land plots, which can also be clearly seen in his photos. Their existence was known to modern researchers only based on the example of the Annivske hill fort from the same map that Shishkin published back in 1966. Spots of allotments of this hill fort are visible only in separate areas on modern satellite imagery. However, it is not possible to trace these patches of allotments near other monuments on satellite imagery. According to Shishkin's aerial photography, the territories of the land allotments covered the territories of the hill forts themselves in a semicircle, sometimes additionally protected by a defensive line. Judging by the pictures and drawings, the location of allotments only in some places had a regular nature of planning, but often no clear lines can be traced between them. The agricultural territories of Gavrylivske and Annivske hill forts occupied a total area of about 10 hectares. Sablukivske has a much smaller territory, but according to the markings on the drawing, the author noted numerous areas scattered far beyond the boundaries of the hill fort. The areas of the Konsulovskoye hill fort are not the most controversial, since they are actually not visible, and Shishkin took only a small area north of the defense lines from them. As a result, the discovered materials demonstrate to us the possibilities of using aerial photographs in archaeological research of the times of the existence of the Soviet Union. Some issues of the methodology of their use, the features of discovering ancient monuments and their mapping, and also allow us to consider in a new way the role of Kostiantyn Shyshkin in the study of monuments of southern Ukraine. The aerial photos he transferred to the archive and the drawings created on their basis of 4 late Scythian hillforts are a valuable source for the history of the development of domestic archaeology and, in particular, Scythian studies. Despite the good state of archaeological study of many of these sites, Shishkin's drawings provide us with information about a number of still unknown ancient objects, including parts of defensive structures, agricultural plots, and ancient tracks. Undoubtedly, these structures deserve the special attention of researchers and require practical verification by field studies. Unfortunately, all the late Scythian hillforts described by us, as well as the vast majority of other monuments along the banks of the Lower Dnieper, fell into the zone of hostilities and military confrontation in the last 2 years. At the moment, it is difficult to say what injuries they have suffered and may still suffer in the future. Therefore, we consider it absolutely necessary to carefully and as accurately as possible record any information about the remains of archaeological monuments, especially from such source as aerial photography of Soviet times. Thank you for your attention, and I will be grateful for constructive questions by my email or in any other way on the internet.